$13.95. Adelaide's FIVEaa. This is Paul Richards.
Now, people have said midlife crisis. People have said, what are you doing? People have said, act your age. It's never too late to follow a dream, especially when you've got a bit of a kid inside you already. My next guest is, I hope you don't mind me saying, in his early 50s. I think that's good in the context of this story. And his name is Steve Davis. Steve, how are you?
Very well, Paul. Thank you. You just asked me innocently, how old are you? And next minute it turns up in the intro.
It's always, you give me anything and it will turn up in the intro. The reason I mention that is because you've waited till late to start stand-up comedy. I just want to know the process of how you got from being a guy who did marketing workshops and the Adelaide Show podcast to that. So let's go back a little bit, all right? Because you're now performing live on stage. But I want to go back to when you realised that would be an idea you'd like to follow. All right? So as a kid, were you funny?
Yeah, I was the class clown as a survival technique.
Now tell me, why? What do you mean by that? Because I can relate to that.
Because I've never thrown a punch in anger in my life. I'm not a fighter. A lot of kids...
That may change before 10:45.
Yeah, good. I'm looking forward to that.
All right.
I've been watching YouTube videos to prep before I came in.
What, cage fighting?
Yeah, exactly. So, look, you know, I had great influences. Paul Hogan.
Yeah.
My dad, actually, in primary school, was training to be, this is weird, was training to be an Anglican priest and living up at St Barnabas College in Blackwood. And every Wednesday night they had the wives and girlfriends nights. So Mum would come up and my sister and I would be in Dad's room and we'd watch The Benny Hill Show.
Yeah.
Dick Emery, and then they were the mainstays. So they and Dave Allen.
Friday nights, Dave Allen.
Yeah, Friday. Yeah. And so there was that, and then great teacher in grade 7, Mr. Cowan, Mike Cowan. He came in one day to the classroom, beginning of the day. And he said, "Everyone, hands up." So we put our hands up. He turns the lights on, and he goes, "Many hands make light work." And at that moment, I thought, God, that's funny.
Yeah.
And then I moved high school 3 times in 5 years. So you've got to survive.
Yes.
And I just had to rely on jokes and things like that to build a group for survival.
Sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's something you keep, I think, with that sort of survival technique. You learn very early on how to manage people and your life. And I don't know if it keeps people at bay a bit for you as well. I know it does for me. You know what I mean by that? People can't get to know you too closely if you're a little bit elusive and a bit funny and a bit mysterious.
Yeah, and also I think the older you get, you become a bit more aware that you're doing that. That there's, I do catch myself, and I'm actually starting to really strip that down. In fact, doing a lot of Sunday nights with Andrew Reimer here, I got better and better at stripping that down because he would just peel the fakeness away pretty well. So that was a big part of the learning curve, So it's self-awareness.
So how are you different now? Would you say that you're a lot more self-aware and there's less veneer now?
I'd like to think so. I've been trying. Look, I'm very aware of one of the most famous psychology, sociology theories called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And what that says is when you know not much about anything, you think you know everything. And when you know a lot about something, you feel like you know there's so much more you need to know. It's inverse. And so am I self-aware? I'd like to think I am, but I'm cautious of saying that because I just...
Well, that's a good sign using that theory.
It's my litmus test.
Yeah,
it's what I keep. It's my mirror to look into. Hang on.
Sure.
What would Dunning-Kruger say at this moment?
We all say that. We've got T-shirts. Now, speaking of T-shirts, you're wearing an interesting one.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, it's on Facebook. I know. You posted it on Facebook anyway. Although the picture came up backwards, you obviously took a photo in a mirror.
I did the whole Insta thing, man. I am just a child of the naughties. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I'll read you Steve's post here.
Okay.
If I have any night owl friend in my friends list here, and I don't mean bowlers, then please consider tuning into FIVEaa at 9:15. The insightful or foolhardy Paul Richards, yet to be decided, has invited me on his show to talk about comedy and the psychological journey I've taken over the past 8 months in confronting fears and just stepping onto that stage to do stand-up. Truth be told, after listening to John Blake for years, I figured, geez, if he can do it. Wow, that's a brave throw.
Well, John and I, we've known each other off and on for a while, and I figured I'd love to see what he throws back at me. I'm just baiting the game.
Yeah. Okay, well, that'll work. That'll work. Hey, Steve, the reason I brought up your age at the very start of this, despite the guilt I feel of doing that, by the way, and I'm older than you, but the reason I brought that up is because I always find it inspiring, because I'm 53.
Yeah.
And I always find it inspiring when something you haven't been doing forever, and you have to be taking a lot of risks to be doing this. Now, you've had this as a defence mechanism, but are you just in your upbringing and in your 20s and 30s, have you been a fairly conservative, careful person, or have you been a risk taker all your life?
You know what? I'd like to say I was a risk taker because I went into radio straight out of school. That's what I wanted to do. But I sort of fell into that okay, and I had other jobs. I did a lot of amateur theatre back in...
that shows, by the way.
At La Mama Theatre back
Oh, my God. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got memories of that place.
Yeah.
That Port Road?
Yeah, there was Port Road. It's gone now, but it used to be there. Yeah. And all my friends around me, like the Chris Drummonds and the Andy Packers, who are now leading amazing theatre companies, I admire them because they took the guts to follow their art and risk no income.
Yeah.
And I stayed with... The one thing I was taught by Vaughan Harvey and others was when you're in radio, have a number of jobs because you never know when your last shift has just gone to air. So I think that I've been conservative on that front. I've always had lots of irons in the fire. This is still a little bit protected because it's not my main job yet. But it's at an emotional level, my God, there's no safety net. When you step onto a stage to do stand-up, it's been the most scary thing I've done in my life.
Okay, well, I want to get to your thinking when you first had that thought. So you're going through life, right? You've passed 50, obviously. By the time you've done it, I mention it because I find it comforting.
Okay,
all right, I find it comforting, a brother in arms of sorts. So you've got a problem with your age?
I didn't think I did.
Yeah, it seems you do.
But of late, because a lot of people look at me and they just assume I'm in my 40s.
Well, I looked at you and thought, well, it's 41 maybe.
And then when they ask, it's, oh, my God.
Oh, well, look, the thing is, the story is better for it, as far as I'm concerned. Okay. And if I've got that wrong, I do apologise. But I think it's our listenership, if you look at the average, you and I are right smack in it. Yeah. So this is something that I want people to be able to relate to. Yep. And so that's why I've brought it up. Yeah. So you have the first sniff of this getting on stage idea when? You look 41, all right?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, go with that.
I feel much better. Look, I reckon it was about 5 years ago. I was doing some of my marketing social media workshops in the city, and a lady said to me she's been doing a stand-up comedy course with the late Dave Flanagan back when he was around. Yeah. And I thought that was when the seed dropped, because when I run my workshops, I consider them just joke fests with education. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. And I thought, you know what, I might. And I dilly-dallied, and Fear said, no,
it'll do that.
And so I didn't do anything. Of course, then he passed away.
Yeah, and that's a real missed opportunity there.
It was. Yeah. And then so you fast forward to the beginning of last year. That's when it came back again. The podcast, The Adelaide Show, got nominated, shortlisted actually in the finals of the National Podcast Awards for Current Affairs, and went over to Melbourne. What was that? Oh, sorry.
I'm waving to David Bruce.
Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry, I just thought you were doing...
Saying stop. No, not at all. No, you keep going, Steve.
All right. I broke the first rule of radio there, didn't I? Anyway, what was that? So last year, we got nominated. I went to Melbourne for the awards. We didn't win, but as Nigel said, we got shortlisted, and they can't take that away from us. Yeah. I met a guy called Murray Morgan who does a podcast interviewing comedians called The School of Hard Knock Knocks. He also has a comedy school. Yeah, I love that name. Called The School of Hard Knock Knocks. So he followed me up. He said, look, Steve, there's an Adelaide guy on our podcast soon. Would you mention it? Because we're coming to do a course in Adelaide. Sure. And I said, oh, sure. And then I thought, you know what? You're doing a course in Adelaide. I'm going to do the old Contra thing. And I said to Murray, I said, look, if you're interested, I'll do the course for free and I'll talk about it on the podcast, thinking he'll say no, go away. So it's a $600 course. Yeah. He said yes.
Wow.
And I said to him instantly, you just called my bluff. You called my bluff. I couldn't back down now.
Yeah.
And I remember, so there's a 5-day course. Glyn Nicholas was the instructor.
Oh, really? God.
And I remember we had to arrive on the first night with 2 minutes of material. You have to do 2 minutes.
On your first night, you're doing 2 minutes of solo stand-up?
Yes.
Screw that.
And I remember driving, you know, the ring road around Adelaide to Quedeville Terrace and around there. I was driving there. I'd been beside myself all day. I could feel the pulse in my eyebrows. There was so much blood pressure ramping up.
Yeah.
And I went out and I was
What an awful feeling, Steve.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
It was horrible. Now, I have a father, I've got 2 kids, and believe me, the birthing, not as hard for me as it was for my wife, but you're there as part of it. It's still intense.
Yeah.
This was just a different, it was like the universe found different areas to pull out dread from and just drench you in it. And there you are. You took your stage, and after it was done, the most amazing thing. Glyn is an amazing teacher. He gave some positive feedback. Everyone chipped in. Yeah. We all had exercises to do. And the next night, we had to do a couple of minutes of new stuff from the exercises, and I couldn't wait to do it.
Really?
It was such...
Oh, what a turnaround.
It was a road to Damascus kind of experience.
Yeah.
Once you've pushed through that baptism of fire. Now, it hasn't been plain sailing ever since. It's still up and down, but that's how that story happened.
We're going to go to a quick break. After the break, you can see on your screen, unfortunately, who's called.
Oh, no.
We're going to talk about your show, and I want to talk about your first experience on stage, and you've also just entered a comp as well. I want to know how that went, all right?
Okay.
But we've got Fat Cat on the line coming up straight after this. We're with Steve Davis. He is just starting out. He's, probably in his 30s?
Yeah, that's
just starting at 20s?
25-ish, mid-20s.
He's from One Direction. Back soon.
$13.95, Adelaide's FIVEaa. This is Paul Richards.
Steve Davis, you're not bad on the old mandolin.
Thank you very much.
If that's what that is. Steve...
I've just put the capo on, just to get the higher register.
Ah, lovely. Capo. I have a Scottish friend who's listening right now, Rob. It's, according to Steve, it's capo.
Yeah. Scottish pronunciation will be different. Be capo.
Something like that. Yeah, I think it is. Hey, before we talk to this next call, and Ralph, I want you to hold on for a sec.
Can I hang that up?
No, I've got controls here. I want to talk to you about how it came to be that you got on that stage. You talked about the comedy school, basically. From there, you got a bug. You basically sound like you got bitten. But when it translates to a real stage with punters who don't know you and aren't sympathetic, that's a different game.
Yeah. I was very lucky because in this course, the last night's a public performance, but a lot of friends there.
Yeah, of course.
And so you dismiss that. Your self-awareness is, oh, you know what, you were just given a free pass, they were friends. I just had this thing open up where the school was the next month in July last year, we're running the course again, and they said, do you want to do it? Because we're filming it. 4 cameras, reality TV show style.
All right.
And we're pitching this, and a certain network is interested in buying it now. And I got to perform in Melbourne to 120 people. Nobody knew me from a bar of soap, and Glyn Nicholas put me on first.
Sheesh.
And so it was the most amazing. I mean, it was surrounded by people like Greg Fleet, amazing comedian. He was teaching us. Joe White's another one. You know, lots of different comedians. Elliot Goblet.
No.
Yes.
Really? Is he still around?
Yeah, he was on the TV. So when this thing goes to air, you'll see that very first thing. And I tell you what, it was actually liberating to go out there and know that nobody knew you, because I was going to come away from that either packing it all in or feeling like, okay, there's some legs here. Yeah, I feel like I've truly tested it. And it went okay. It went well.
That first laugh must be important. I know when I'm emceeing, if I can nail it to the audience, that first line, that first moment, that first relationship you have with the audience is so, I think it's vital.
There's 2 things I learned from this course. Elliot Goblet told me the first one, and that is you've got to get affinity with the audience and that first laugh in 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Do whatever you can to get that. And Greg Fleet said the other thing. He said, it's confidence. If you can fake feeling confident in your skin, people love it. People don't want to come and see you fail. They want to come and enjoy it. And if you believe in yourself, it can transfer to the audience. And so, seriously, I mean, that plus some of the technical things they teach you, which is all about, because a lot of people are funny, but making it work on stage, you just need the discipline of rearranging your punchlines to make sure the very funniest thing is right at the end. There's no trail. And it's just little nips and tucks. It's quite fascinating. Yeah.
Wow.
And it didn't hurt that Tim Ferguson came to Adelaide from the Doug Anthony All-Stars last year, 3 weeks after my first course, and he was doing a 2-day comedy writing workshop, and I pulled the same contrast trick. And
you did not?
He put me through that for free.
You're living on that.
And sitting with that man who is an absolute genius, he has deconstructed comedy and there are formulas. You can actually, you do not have to be inspired to write comedy. He said he's never been inspired. He does it methodically. And he teaches this in New York, all around the world. And he's coming back during the Fringe, by the way.
Oh, good.
Amazing. So it's getting those insights has been a great help. But, you know, even when I was in the Raw Comedy Heat, I didn't win, didn't get through last week. It was just that feeling of every new audience, every time you've got a new bit of comedy, it tests you. It makes you think, will they like me? Because you want to be liked, but you want that story to be accepted. I
would expect that this next caller likes you to a degree. He started his life as a cat.
He did.
Yeah, as Fat Cat, in fact. Ralf Hadzic, who's been on the show many times in many different disguises. You might wonder why I'm checking the TV out, by the way, Steve. It's because I want Laura to see something that's coming on in just a moment on Sky News. You have to keep watching Laura and then give me your reaction. That'll get her off the chair. We're having a competition tonight, see if anyone can get Laura off the chair.
I heard that.
Yeah, because last week she stormed in here, absolutely raging.
So unlike Laura.
No, it's not. Ralf Hadzic is, in brackets, Fat Cat, and yourself, Steve, have a show, Two Cats on a Hot Fringe Roof. Your first Fringe show?
Yep. Well, second. Actually, third.
Oh, for God's sake. Why was I sent something that said first? First real one?
First real one.
Yeah.
I did the podcast as one, and back in the 1980s I did one. This is
a
proper.
stand-up.
This is professional, proper first.
Why don't we get a guy who knows you really well on? G'day, Ralf, how are you?
Well, Paul, I actually faked my first two, and this is my first real one. Yeah, because I did do an off Flinders Street Fringe show 4 years ago.
Flinders Street Fringe show.
Just to test it out. And you know, you talk about being ripped off in your life. Both Steve and I, the king of Contra, went to the Vaughan Harvey School of Broadcasting.
So did I.
See? Yeah. And look where you are. And so we...
where am I? I feel disoriented.
I passed with flying colors. I was one of his prime students, and almost up until the day the good man passed, I took him to dinner at... and, you know, some of the great people in the world have never had a dinner. For instance... Pamela Anderson's first son, when he was born, said, "Is this all for me?" Never was taken to a dinner. And I had dinner with Vaughan, and he said, "You know what? You really still stink." And my first real gig was as a mute cat. Now, did I waste my money or did I invest wisely?
How do you look back on your Fat Cat years, Ralph?
Oh, look, considering how old I am now and how old most of the girls I date are, they have no idea who Fat Cat was. Although I see a lot of ladies who say, "You used to put me to bed when I was little." And I say, "I still provide the service, but on a more personal basis." And, you know, apparently it's inappropriate now.
See, I told you we were going to dump this call.
Yeah.
Now,
it's right here, the dump button.
But you see, this is the interesting thing. You look at inappropriateness, and it's not. Don Rickles made a career out of being totally inappropriate. Yeah. Dean Martin always joked about being drunk. Pamela Anderson, only 20 years ago, you know, was this buxom blonde, you know, bimbo. And nothing is really inappropriate. It's just that certain people have said things that are inappropriate. So if you want to see inappropriate, come and drop it and see us. But, one of the great things is, with the cat, it gave me a voice, although he didn't have one.
Curiously.
It gave me a voice, and it was a great time because the cat now is inappropriate, because we wanted to revive the Good Night segments for all of those people that said, if only we could have now for our kids what you did for us back then. And, there are educators now that say, no, you can't do that. Children will determine when they should go to bed and when they shouldn't go to bed.
For the love of God.
It's a fact, Paul. It's a fact.
Yeah, well, but it's wrong.
Hey, so what's appropriate and what's inappropriate? It's all a state of mind.
I don't want some sort of paternalistic, you can do this, you can't do that. Just be whatever you want to be, for God's sake.
Well, and look, you're right. You're right.
Can I just say, Ralph and I are still discussing whether or not he will have a talking role in our Fringe show.
Well, he's not very good at it. Hey, Steve Etcher, we'll bring you back on because you've made the effort of coming in.
Yeah.
This is actually directed by Glenn Nicholas as well, I see.
That's right.
Two Cats on a Hot Fringe Roof. Tell me what it's about.
All right, so basically in the show, Ralph and I are going to dismantle kids' TV. I'm going to reflect on a lot of my experiences with it in this sort of stand-up portion. Ralph has a stack of blooper footage from behind the scenes of the old Fat Cat days.
Oh, really?
A Touch of Elegance, all those sorts of shows from back then. I believe can I mention her name, Ralph?
Sure.
Jane Riley is in one of them, and she thinks this particularly embarrassing bit of footage has been deleted.
Dead set.
But it hasn't.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Do you have it here?
I don't have it here, but in our Fringe show,
Ralph,
you will see it. Until the lawyers get involved. So I would come opening night, if possible.
Can I tell you, Janie's been one of my mates for, 40 years.
Yeah.
And, we were there in the Miss Australian Beach Girl days. And Jane, believe it or not, was not the first choice to replace Veronica Overton.
Yeah, I remember Veronica as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so Veronica left us, and there was an 8-month-long search for the successor to Veronica. And a couple of girls came in and filled in, and then we picked somebody. And on the last day of her training, her boyfriend said, I don't like these television people. It's either you or it's me. And she took the boyfriend, and Janie came in without all of the training. Actually, I still have Janie's original audition on videotape.
Oh, seriously? Wow.
Yeah, I do, yeah. And Janie has, she's been great. She's the most generous person. And she's one of the greatest storytellers, and she punked me in 1979, and I've been threatening to get even since then, and I think this year is the year I get even.
Wow.
So
40-year wait, that's real savage, isn't it? That's a real bitterness.
It is.
He's got some troubles, this boy.
That's why I didn't want you to dump his call, really. I do want to wait for the payback.
The show is 7:30 p.m, Feb 18, 19, 20, then 25, 26, 27, because they've got to have a rest.
Basically, it's the first Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays of the Fringe, the first two of them. It's those nights because Ralf Hadzic had the job of finding a venue and didn't, and I had to find one in the last minute, and the Historian Hotel said we could have you, but only on those nights.
18 Coromandel Place in Adelaide, upstairs at the Historian Hotel. You can get your tickets via adelaidefringe.com.au. I'll give you the Fringe Ticks number as well. It's 1300 621 255. That is 1300 621 255. It's called Two Cats on a Hot Fringe Roof. Ralf Hadzic, who of course played Fat Cat, and Steve Davis, who is just wonderful with cats.
Ralph's taught me everything I know. And I will just say there is significance in the starting time, 7:30.
Oh, yeah. Kids go to bed, adults come out to play. Is it a family show?
No. Thanks, Ralph. You just lost us some tickets. I take the opinion we apologise later. Look, it is for adults. It's not a vulgar show. Well, Ralph's part might be, but mine isn't.
Never.
No. But no, it's. We try to be clever rather than filthy.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well,
you know, I've never believed that bad language is funny.
Yeah.
There is a place for it, but, you know, we have so many of these new young comedians that try to get as many expletives in the first sentence.
Yeah, agree.
And it's not funny.
Yeah.
I don't think it's funny. You can be clever with stuff.
Yeah.
And Stephen Fry stole one of my lines when he was here in Adelaide. I took care of Stephen, and not in the biblical sense because he has a husband, but he
it's nice. It's the thought that counts.
Yeah.
And
he's not into small fry as well.
No, there's nothing small about that fry, I can tell you. And his nickname was Tripod. But he stole this line, and I had one of my five-star clients there, and she turned around to look to me, and she said, "You gave him that, didn't you?"
Yeah.
And I went, "Yes, I did." And I'll share it with everybody at Two Cats on a Hot Fringe Roof.
All right, mate. All right, good talking to you, Ralph.
Thanks, Paul.
He needs to go back into his kitty litter and just rest. Good on you, Ralph. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
He's is he good to work with?
He's fun. Hard to work with because Glenn will be doing most of directing of me. It's really hard to direct Ralf Hadzic.
He's undirectable.
I think he's undirectable.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a one of a kind. And so are you, Steve. I'm really appreciative of you coming in tonight.
Pleasure.
And so
yes,
just to round it out, for anyone who's got a bit of a dream, all right, you're the spokesperson for someone who could probably inspire them. What do you have to say? What's some wise words? And I say that again just so I can bring this round full circle. I started by saying you've chosen to do this a little later than some.
Yep.
Do you have anything you'd like to attach to that, or you just want people to sort of put the dots together themselves?
No, all I will say is, in my mind, the thing that's always stuck with me, I used to work at FIVEaa, covered all the bushfires that happened all through there, and how the CFS does a back-burning operation to stop a fire.
Yeah.
By stepping up and doing like a course, like the School of Hard Knock Knocks, where you get pushed through that baptism of fire, everything's easier after that. And I've got a couple of people doing the next one that I know who have no intention of doing stand-up, but they want to have more confidence when they have to present to a meeting. Yeah. And the things you learn, it's those little tricks that once you've done them and you've seen them, you watch a Seinfeld episode and it takes a little bit away from it because you know exactly the formula.
Yeah, yeah.
But you still enjoy it. But it's just amazingly simple. Yeah. It's like anything in life. Once you've known how things are made, you have a different appreciation for them.
You know what? You strike me as if I couldn't hear you and I could just see you, you look like a man who's found love. That's to me. You know, you look like you've found something you really feel centred in and it suits you.
Thanks.
It's been a lot of fun for me having you here.
Thank you. Thanks for the chance.
Hey, Steve Davis, you can catch him and Ralf as well, Ralf Hadzic, just again in Two Cats on a Hot Fringe Roof, Adelaide Fringe 2019. You can go to the website adelaidefringe.com.au and that's where you'll find your fringe ticks as well, 1300 621 255. It's right on 10 to 10. We need to go to a break. Steve, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
I look forward to coming and seeing your show and finding out what did happen with Jane Riley that night. Okay, we'll be back soon.